How's it going, everybody? This is Cameron White with White Light Astrology, and welcome back to your favorite weekly horoscope. What the fuck is going on in the universe for? Wow, it's already December, but November 25th through December, 2nd of 2019. Thank you guys so much for being here, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys, and I'm so glad you guys can be here with me this week. As you guys can see, again, I'm at a different location this time, a little bit of a fun background. I don't know how well the graphics are going to look with this, but whatever, we'll figure it out. Anyway, this is a interesting week in the energy, as we got off of last week with Mercury going direct, Mars going into Scorpio, making that opposition to Uranus. We had Venus conjoin Jupiter. Last week was a lot of fun. Like last week really, I feel like set the foundation or got the ball rolling a little bit more with a energy change, because I'm sure some of you guys are still dealing with a lot of what the summer brought. And as we kind of close out this week and go into next week, we really start to get into that transition zone where we get to really close up what kind of happened over the summer, especially as we get into eclipse season, but that's later on in December. However, this week's highlights, we're starting this week off with Venus moving into Capricorn, which is going to be really exciting. And then let me grab my paper here. Yeah, this week's highlights, we have Venus moving into Capricorn today on Monday, which is really exciting. We also have the new moon in Sag the next day on Tuesday, so there's already 2 little doses of fresh energy right there for us to use. Then later on this week, as we get into Friday, we're going to be having Mercury sextile Saturn, which isn't necessarily the biggest deal in the world. However, I do think that it is going to be a lot more constructive and supportive since Mercury is now direct and going through its shadow. I mean, Mercury's already sextiled Saturn a few times. I think this one, though, this third and final one, is going to be a lot more constructive and a lot more beneficial. As well, the last real big highlight we have, well, not even the last, because on Monday, as we get into next week, we have Jupiter already moving into Capricorn. I'm so fucking sad that Jupiter's moving out of Sag, but Jupiter moves into Capricorn next Monday, as well as Venus conjoins the South Node on Monday. Yeah, we kind of forgot about Venus is going next to the nodes right there, huh? But with this week, I really do think that energy shift of going from that intense Scorpio energy, I mean, to now the sun's in Sag, Mars is in Scorpio, Venus is going to go into Capricorn. We're starting to slowly get to that shift in energy that gets us away from that Mercury retrograde. And I think that this energy is kind of shifting from, what do we do, what do we know, to now we know, let's execute. This is about really taking action and really applying yourself, or applying yourself to whatever position or whatever situation that you're in. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the horoscope. So starting today on Monday, we're going to be having the moon in Scorpio. And of course, as you guys should know, that kind of gets our emotions a little bit more volatile. Things get a little bit more deeper. It's going to be a little bit easier to, repress some things, keep things a little bit hidden and secret. However, as we go into Monday, we're going to be having Venus finally move into Capricorn. Now, a lot of people kind of get this weird taste with Venus in Capricorn because you go, it's in this boring sign that Saturn rules and it's all about Earth stuff and it's just hardcore, and it's not necessarily always the case. You see, Venus rules Taurus and Libra. And we know that Venus rules an Earth sign, and we have Venus in another Earth sign. So she's in, there's some type of, there's a positive quality there with her being in a triplicity of her ruling sign. However, Venus also shares a sign with Saturn. Since Saturn's exalted sign is Libra, and that's Venus's ruling sign, Venus actually gets really along, gets along with Saturn very well. Anyway, as Venus moves into Capricorn, that value of going from explorative and imaginative and fun and creative, looking to seek, looking to, understand with Venus and Sagittarius, Venus moving into Capricorn is about business. Venus is like, hey, I love these things. I want to attract these things towards me. I want to indulge in these things. I want to have and possess and hold. I want to value and enjoy. That's kind of like Venus's stuff. Like, that's what she does. And as she goes into Capricorn, this is about systems. This is about regulations. This is about playing by the rules. And it can be fun playing by the rules sometimes. We don't always have to go all crazy. But Venus in Capricorn is really going, hey, I really value these systems. And I value this approach and this way of doing things. I really like the way that I can have order and a foundation, and that there is a set of rules to play with. And so while Venus goes into Capricorn, this is going to be a really good time to go, hey, how can I do things in a systematic and an orderly fashion? Where can I kind of get my jive and my groove back with some type of system, with some type of an organization almost? And that sounds very mercurial, like that sounds very Virgo. But Venus is like, hey, I love these things, and she's going to do whatever it takes to get them towards her. And as she goes into Capricorn, this isn't always about, like being organized or, like I was just talking about. Like, this is really more about valuing the mundane, valuing the simplicity, valuing the efficiency. And I think that's what Venus in Capricorn is really going to look like. But then as we go into Tuesday, we have the moon moving to Sagittarius, and we finally have the new moon in Sag, which this is really exciting because this is the last lunation with Jupiter in Sagittarius. And as Jupiter's at the last degrees of Sagittarius and this new moon's at like the first couple of degrees, there's not too much of a connection there. However, this new moon, as we should know by now, is all about resetting our intentions, kind of clearing out the energy, getting calm real quick, kind of focusing all of the light in one area. And this is Sag. Where are we going? What do we believe? What are we hopeful for? Most importantly, what are we grateful for? And I think that's going to be a really good thing to reflect on during this Sag season, especially because, we're getting to Thanksgiving and Christmas. But what are we grateful for? What are we seeing? Where do we want to grow into? Where do we still have hope and faith and optimism in? And this new moon is really giving us that time to set our intentions for that optimism. And I think this is going to be a more powerful new moon to use for 2020 intentions than the eclipses that we're going to be going into after that. But during this new moon, just take a good time to go, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm excited about. This is what I'm grateful for. And, be creative with it. Be imaginative of it. What does that mean for your future? What does that mean for moving forward? And I think this new moon in Sag is just going to be a really good time to sit back, relax, and kind of go, be content. But then as we get into Wednesday on the 27th, that's when we're going to be having the moon conjoin Jupiter. And that's really the only big transit that's going on Wednesday. And as the moon conjoins Jupiter, this is the last moon conjunction to Jupiter in Sagittarius. So soak in as much Jupiter energy as you can, and whatever you're trying to do, I shouldn't say whatever you're trying to do. I would say this. The moon in Sag makes us feel like we got to go somewhere. Jupiter in Sag makes us feel like that somewhere we're going is like the grass is greener on the other side. But while the moon's conjoining Jupiter, I think this is going to take a really good opportunity to, especially before we have Jupiter move into Capricorn and we deal with that Capricorn shit for the next year. Before you go to the other side, just look back and take in what you have right now. Like, yeah, sure, the grass is always greener on the other side, and you could say that for everything. However, before you go see that grass, make sure you remember what your grass looks like, and be thankful that you had that, and be thankful that this was there, because as you move forward, that might not be there anymore. We may not ever get this again. And that's kind of like the whole MO with Jupiter and Sag is like, we're going to be exploring, but don't forget, like, we leave things behind. And as we do, we got to make sure that we honor that and that we recognize that and that we're aware of that. But then as we go into Thursday, that's when the moon is going to be going into Capricorn, and Venus is actually the moon will be conjoining Venus and the South Node. So this is where I feel like the moon in Capricorn flavor is really going to change a little bit, especially or just because Venus is in Capricorn right now. But as the moon moves into Capricorn, this is the time to nut up, shut up, kind of get serious, check out for a little bit to make sure you can get your work done, whatever you got to focus on. I always use the moon in Capricorn as like, it's not going to be easy. Like, the moon in Capricorn is not a good day to, like, stay at home and, like, sulk in your emotions. The moon in Capricorn is a kind of a good day to, like, where you might be emotional, go and do something anyway because you got nothing else better to do. So while the moon goes into Capricorn, it's kind of a good time to harden up, kind of a good time to go, okay, where can I place my emotions in an efficient and effective manner? But as it conjoins Venus and then conjoins the South Node, I think this is going to be a good look at, hey, I actually really like systems and efficiency, but let's change it up. Because you have to remember the South Node is about releasing and letting go. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. But as Venus is getting closer to the moon goes there, what systems do we have already that we really like that may not work anymore? And this also is a good time to really look at what systems or uses of efficiency we've used in the past and how can we use those today? How can we, the systems and structures we've placed before in our past, how can we bring those forward today and use those? Because that's going to come in handy later on, especially as we get to eclipse season later on. But then as we get into Friday, right before the weekend, we'll have Mercury sextile Saturn for its third and final time during this time in Scorpio. And while Mercury sextile Saturn, this is about getting that idea straight. This is about going, okay, I'm aware. I have focus. Like, I have clarity. I'm scoped in the way that I need to. I'm seeing things the way that I need to. And Saturn, bringing that sextile energy of kind of, comradeship, or I don't know how to say that word, so I probably sound dumb, but friendship, that's like the supportive sextile. Saturn's kind of like, hey, if you look at things through this lens, if you, focus in your view this way, you'll actually have some positive qualities. You'll actually be able to build something from this. So this is supportive energy. However, on Friday as well, the moon is going to start to conjoin Saturn and also sextile Mercury. So there is a lot of communication going on between Mercury and Saturn. So if you have a lot of Mercury Saturn stuff to do on Friday, great day to do it. But then as we get into this weekend, that's when we're going to be having the moon on Saturday move into Aquarius and start to make a square to Mars. Now, with the moon in Aquarius, it's so, like, with everything in Capricorn, I feel like the moon in Aquarius is just like the same thing, but kind of like if you have a certain genre of music you listen to and you've been in the scene for quite some time, like the moon in Aquarius is that guy that's like, yeah, I've been in the scene for 20 years, I've seen this come and go, and it's just kind of like, it's the same thing, but it's like a little bit different, like it's got a little bit more experience, a little bit more perspectives. And as the moon goes into Aquarius but squares Mars, this is where it gets a little complicated, because Mars is wanting to pull the trigger, go forward, do that thing. But the moon in Aquarius is like, before we just pull the trigger on whatever the fuck we're trying to do, let's look at other perspectives. Let's open this up a little bit. Let's look from a bird's eye view. Let's look outside the walls. Let's look outside the box. And so as we get into this weekend, before you just start going, start thinking, and maybe you'll actually have some alternative ideas or solutions that might help you a little bit more than the one that you were originally thinking of. And this goes for Sunday as well, because on Sunday, the moon starts applying to a square with Mercury. And as the moon starts to apply to that, that's where it's kind of like, maybe we should rethink our strategy. Maybe we shouldn't push the big red button yet. Maybe we should kind of see our options out and kind of weigh things out a little bit. And this isn't to say, you can't do anything this weekend, or if you need to do something, you can't do it. It's just more of like, before you just go gun-ho, think about what you're doing first, because that's going to really come in handy. But then as we get into December, which that was Sunday's December as well, but as we get into Monday on December 2nd, we've got to have a lot going on, because Jupiter moves into Capricorn. I'm excited about this because it's my Jupiter return, and Jupiter is just on my ascendant right now, so I can't complain. But a lot of you probably can, because Jupiter in Capricorn probably isn't going to be as fun as Jupiter in Sag. But I feel like a lot of people are kind of complaining about Jupiter in Sag not being as fun as it's supposed to be, and that's okay, because Jupiter in Capricorn isn't supposed to be fun, so don't expect it. Jupiter in Capricorn's about support. Jupiter in Capricorn's about going, hey, like, how can we, like, it's kind of like, what's a good way to put it? I've been talking a lot of different ways about it, trying to be creative of how to really go about it, because Jupiter is about beliefs. It is, a gas planet. Like, it's a very airy type planet. It doesn't really have a lot of Earth modality. Now, Jupiter being so benevolent and so, extravagant, wanting to make things bigger, make things great, as it goes into the sign of Capricorn, that is kind of like a burning building. It's kind of like, all right, how do we make this really crappy situation just a tad bit better? So this is positive, though, because Jupiter's going into this place that has been wrecking all of our charts and fucking up all the astrology for a while, and Jupiter finally gets to bring some support and relief there. So this is something exciting to look forward to. But also on Monday, we're going to be having Venus conjoin the South Node, and this is where I talked about earlier when it comes to like systems that we've had in place before, like stuff that we've done before. Like, this is the time to acknowledge what we've done before and maybe utilize stuff that we've done in our past to help us in our future, to help us in this moment to get us to the future that we want to. And Venus conjoining the South Node is really a look at like, what doesn't serve me anymore? What doesn't, and it's not necessarily about like, oh, you need to cut cords and let this person go and do this. It's mostly just about like, this is the hand releasing. Like, this is the hand, not grabbing, but releasing. And so what needs to be released here? And I brought up the idea of bringing something back from the past to use it again, because the South Node, like, we can't we can't move forward unless we know our past. Like, that's where we've came from. So utilize what you've learned in your past to help you with your future, but don't bring it with you. Like, don't bring the same ideas and the same mindset that you've used all the time into your future. This is the time to change. This is the time to go, I love myself. Venus is in Capricorn. I love being sober. I love being an adult. I love being calm and cool and having systems in place. Like, that's Venus in Capricorn energy. So just embrace it, express it, have fun with it. But as well, on Monday, we have the moon moving into Pisces, which I really think is going to give us that opportunity that we're looking for to be a little bit more open. Because while the moon's in Capricorn, it can be really easy to not be, open to change or doing something different. But that moon in Pisces is giving us the ability and that opportunity to look at things through different perspectives, to change, to be changeable, to have our emotional part of ourselves change. Like, that's literally the whole MO of Pisces. It's a mutable sign, which is all about change. So as we go into next week, like, we really do start next week with quite an intense, different energy. But next week, let's talk about it real quick. The only two things we've got really going on is Mars sextiles Venus, which is kind of nice because this is our first aspect with Mars and Venus since they've conjoined. But then we also have Mercury entering Sagittarius next week, which may be a little bit difficult because Mercury is in Sagittarius is Mercury's detriment sign, meaning it doesn't operate as well there. And Mercury is kind of one of those planets you want to operate a little bit better because it's about communication, and communication is so vital to humans. However, next week really is the big bang is really Jupiter moves into Capricorn, Venus conjoins the south node, then we'll have Mars sextile Venus, Mercury going to Sag. But this week is kind of like that last week to kind of reflect and be thankful, be grateful. Look at your past. Like, before you just jump ship and move over, it's like, you think, like, if you ever done something and you remember something that happened in your past and you sit there and think like, I can't remember what this person looked like or what this was like, and your memory can be a little bit foggy, and that kind of sucks sometimes. Like, this is the time to really make sure that you can remember this moment, remember this time in your life, because as we start to move forward, things are going to change, and things are going to change for the better, things are going to change for the worse. That's how life goes. But just acknowledge what we've done this year, what we've had this year, what you have right now, because you may not have that in the future. And I'm not sitting here saying like, oh, everything's going to go away. It's not how life works. But it is really important to acknowledge this moment. And I think that's what this week's about. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for being here, liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. And I'll be seeing you next week.